rider na motorsiklo sa India sinalpok ng itim na SUV, tumilapon.
Nakaligtas naman kaya ang dalawang rider sa impact ng pagsalpok ng kanilang kotse. Ang kanilang kalagayan ating aalamin mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki, Alagao, Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Miyerkules.
Unang harapang pagpupulong ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at US President Donald Trump ikinakasana.
Pilipinas target makipagsosyo sa UAE at Argentina para sa bagong nuclear deal.
Taiwan inaresto ang mga crew ng Chinese cargo ship dahil sa paninira ng sea cables.
Ukraine-Russia ceasefire posibleng mapagkasunduan sa mga susunod na linggo.
At Southwest Airlines flight kamuntikan nang sumalpok sa isang private jet sa Chicago Airport. Inihahanda na ang unang harapang pagpupulong ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at US President Donald Trump. Ayon po yan kay Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez.
Ayon kay Romualdez, nakipag-ugnayan na ang Philippine Embassy sa Washington sa White House para sa mga paksang tatalakayin sa pagpupulong ng dalawang lider ng bansa. Binigyan din ni Romualdez na nais ni PBBM na makakuha ng appointment sa White House para makabuluhang makapag-usap sila ni Trump. Una nang ipinahayag ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang kanyang intensyon na makapagkita kay President Trump para maimpluwensyahan ang policy making nito partikular sa immigration. Bahagi kasi ng kampanya ni Trump ang mass deportation ng estimated 11 milyong undocumented migrants sa Estados Unidos, kung saan target ng Trump administration na paalisin ang nasa 1 milyong illegal na mga aliens kada taon. Batay sa datos ng Department of Foreign Affairs, mayroong 370,000 na mga undocumented Filipino immigrants na nakatira sa Estados Unidos.
Tiniyak naman ng United Nations World Food Program na nasa top priority pa rin ito ang pagpopondo sa mga flagship school meals at food voucher program ng Pilipinas. Sa gitna po yan ng desisyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump na ipatupad ang 90-day foreign aid freeze ng Estados Unidos. Sinabi ni World Food Program Regional Director for Asia and the Pacific, Samir Wanmali, minimal lamang ang epekto ng US foreign aid freeze sa Pilipinas at matutugunan ang magiging pagkukulang mula rito sa pamamagitan naman ng donasyon. Apektado po kasi ang 7 billion pesos na WFP funding para sa school meals at food stamp programs sa Pilipinas. Sa kabila naman ito, tiniyak ng WFP na patuloy na matatanggap ng libo-libong mga Pilipino ang benepisyo ng programa ngayong taon at sa mga susunod pang taon. Ang World Food Program ay ang leading humanitarian organization ng United Nations, kung saan nasa 80 milyong katao sa 80 bansa ang tinutulungan nito sa pamamagitan ng pagde-deliver ng food assistance sa oras ng emergency para maisulong ang nutrisyon at food security.
Plano ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas na makipagsosyo sa United Arab Emirates o UAE at Argentina para bumuo ng kasunduan para sa nuclear power investments. Ayon sa Department of Energy, kinakasana ang mga pagpupulong at kung sino ang ipadadalang mga kinatawan ng Pilipinas para pag-usapan ng nuclear power deal. Sa kaso ng UAE, inaasahan na posibleng mapag-usapan ang kolaborasyon ukol sa Clean Technology Framework, isang transisyon patungo sa clean energy tulad ng renewable gas at iba pa. Taong 2023 nang naging punong abala ang Emirati government sa COP28 Climate Change Summit, kung saan itinampok nila ang Baraka Nuclear Power Facility bilang key infrastructure sa 2050 net zero strategy ng UAE. Samantala, para naman sa Argentina, meron silang pressurized heavy water reactor bilang nuclear energy source nito. Mula rito ay layo ng Energy Department na pumasok sa isang kasunduan sa Argentina at UAE bilang partner ng Pilipinas para sa nuclear diplomacy.
Kapayapaan at kasaganaan ang kailangan ng rehiyon, hindi intermediate-range missiles at komprontasyon. Ito po ang naging opening statement ng Chinese state media sa panawagan nito sa Pilipinas na i-withdraw na ang Typhoon intermediate-range missiles ng Estados Unidos. Sinabi pa ng China, paulit-ulit daw na sinira ng Pilipinas ang mga pangako nito. Noong una raw kasi ay nangako ang Pilipinas na pansamantala lamang ang deployment ng US Typhoon missiles at ibabalik rin ito sa Estados Unidos. Wala namang komento ang Philippine Embassy sa Beijing, maging ang Malacanang at iba pang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan ng Pilipinas sa panibagong patutsada ng China. Subalit, dati nang binanggit ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na ang payag itong i-pull out ang Typhoon missile sa Luzon kung ititigil na ng China ang panghaharas nito sa Pilipinas sa West Philippine Sea. Samantala, may mga balitang lumabas na may dinedevelop na bagong submarine ng China sa isang shipyard dito sa Wuhan. At ang asset na ito ay maaari umanong gamitin para i-target ang mga medium-range missile defense system na nakadeploy sa Pilipinas. Hindi naman kinumpirman ng People's Liberation Army kung may katotohanan ang balitang ito. Subalit, binanggit sa isang report ng Naval and Merchant Ships Military Magazine na dinevelop ang bagong submarine ng China upang palakasin ang kakayanan ng hukbong dagat ng Beijing sa pagsugpo ng presensya ng mga dayuhang militar sa Pacific region. Tinutukoy ito ang US Typhoon launchers na nakabase sa Luzon na may kakayahang maglunsad na missile sa China, Russia at maging sa North Korea.
Iniulat ng COMELEC na nasa mahigit 45 milyong balota na ang kanilang naimprenta para sa May 12 midterm polls. Ayon sa poll body, nitong Martes kabuuang 45,649,329 ballots o 63.32% na po yan ng mahigit 72 million ang natapos ng maimprenta. Mula sa bilang na ito, nasa 22 million ballots naman ang ginawa ng Miro Systems, ang service provider ng COMELEC, habang mahigit 23 million ang galing sa National Printing Office. Hinati ang trabaho sa pagitan ng dalawang ahensya para mapabilis ang proseso ng pag-imprenta ng balota at inaasahang matatapos ang mga ito pagsapit ng March 9 or 10, 2025.
Kinwestiyon ni Supreme Court Associate Justice Amy Lazaro Javier ang pagmamadaling ilipat ang labis na pondo ng PhilHealth sa National Treasury. Gayong ang mga programang paglilipatan nito ay napondohan na. Partikular na tinukoy ni Justice Lazaro Javier ang PGN Island Bridges Project na anya ay mukhang fully funded ng Export-Import Bank of Korea na nagkakahalaga ng 174 billion pesos. Nagtanong siya kung ano ang pondo na inilaan para sa PGN ay inilipat sa unprogrammed funds ng gobyerno. Sumagot naman si Solicitor General Menardo Guevara na kailangan niyang suriin kung ang pondo ay nailipat lamang o tuluyan ng natanggal. Ipinaliwanag niya na may tinanggal ang Kongreso sa mga panukalang infrastruktura o iba pang proyekto ng pamahalaan. At nang tanungin si Solgen kung gumastos ba ang gobyerno kahit 1 sentimo para sa proyekto kahit hindi pa ito nagsisimula, sumagot si Solgen Guevara na walang gagastusin kung hindi pa man lamang nagsisimula ang proyekto. Ito ang dahilan kaya nagtanong si Justice Lazaro Javier na, so where is the money?
The PGN Bridges project appears to be fully funded by the Export-Import Bank of Korea in the amount of 174.49 billion plus. Is there an urgency to transfer the PhilHealth funds when the project is already fully funded?
Your Honor, I think one consideration by the Congress in doing so is a determination of when a project is already implementable. So if a project that has already been identified and sufficiently funded is considered to be non-implementable for the given fiscal year, then I think it is the decision of the Congress in the exercise of its policy or wisdom, so to speak, to move it to the unprogrammed appropriations.
Has the government moved this amount to the unprogrammed funds of the government?
There are so...
This
sorry.
Export-Import Bank of Korea loan, has the government moved it to unprogrammed funds?
We will have to check on
Yes,
that.
please check on that.
Yes, whether that has been actually transferred only or removed altogether.
Yes.
Because there were certain removals made by the Congress in the proposed infrastructure.
Has the government spent even a single centavo from that loan, considering that the project has not even started?
Well, there is nothing to spend for if the project has not even started, Your
So
Honor.
where is the money?
The money went presumably to the National Treasury for the purpose of using it for projects and programs under the unprogrammed
So we have
appropriations.
unused funds for the project, and yet we still got money from PhilHealth.
Binigyan diin ni Justice Lazaro Javier na ang PG and Island Bridges Project ay nakatanggap ng karagdagang pondo na 50 million pesos na galing sa 2022 General Appropriations Act o GAA at nakakuha rin ito ng 57 million pesos noong GAA ng taong namang 2023. Samantala, sa March 4, 2025 ay magpapatuloy ang oral argument sa Supreme Court para sa mga petisyon na nagnanais na harangan ang paglipat ng 89.9 billion pesos na pondo ng PhilHealth sa National Treasury.
Ginawaran ng Sweden ng Department of Transportation ng 3 million krona o 16.35 million pesos upang ipagpatuloy ang EDSA Bus Rapid Transit o BRT project feasibility study. Ang grant agreement ay nilagdaan ni na Transportation Undersecretary for Road Transport and Infrastructure Jesus Ortega, Planning and Project Development Director Felicissimo Pangilinan, Swedish State Secretary for International Development Cooperation and Foreign Trade Diana Janse at Swed Fund Project Accelerator Acting Director Anna Legevic. Ayon kay Ortega, ang Sweden grant ay magpapalawig ng isa pang taon sa EDSA Busway Feasibility Study. Magbibigay rin anya ang Sweden ng technical assistance tulad ng detalyadong engineering designs, mga payo sa planong public-private partnership para sa EDSA Busway at paggamit ng sustainable energy, capacity building at training para sa DOTR.
Sa kulungan naman ang bagsak ng 2 Chinese nationals at 3 Pinoy na kasabwat nito dahil sa umunay pang-espiya sa Malacanang at iba pang critical infrastructures ng Pilipinas. Iprinisinta ng National Bureau of Investigation o NBI sa media ang mga dinakip na sina Ni Chinhui, Zheng Wei, Omar Khan Kashim Joveres, Leo Laraya Panti at Mark Angelo Bohols Binza. Ang mga Pinoy na naaresto ay umamin na sila ay inupahan ng mga suspect na Chinese para magmaneho ng paikot-ikot sa Villamor Air Base, Camp Aguinaldo, Malacanang, Camp Crame at US Embassy kapalit ng bayad na 2,500 pesos hanggang 3,000 pesos kada buwan. Sinampahan na ang mga suspect ng kaso sa paglabag sa Espionage Act at sa Cybercrime Prevention Act. Sinabi ni NBI Director Judge Jaime Santiago na may nag-report sa kanilang ahensya na may mga kahina-hinalang sasakyan na gumagamit umano ng mga International Mobile Subscriber Identity Catchers. Pumupuntaan niya ang mga kampo ng militar o sa mga kampo ng militar pulisya sa iba pang mga mahalagang sistema, pasilidad at national government assets ang mga spies na ito. Sa validation of information at actionable intelligence ng NBI ay napag-alaman na may mga sistemang ginagamit upang hanapin at suriin ang mga rogue o hindi lisensyadong BTS. Ang rogue BTS ayon sa NBI ay isang unauthorized or malicious base station na nagpapanggap na isang lehitimong cellular tower upang mag-intercept, mag-manipulate o manggulo ng mobile network communications. Ito anila ay kadalasang ginagamit para sa unauthorized surveillance, eavesdropping, data theft at network disruption.
Susunod, Taiwan inaresto ang pinaghihinalaang Chinese crew na nanabotahe ng kanilang undersea cables.
Ukraine-Russia ceasefire. Abot kamay ng haba.
At politiko sa Estados Unidos na nawagang ilabas ang Jeffrey Epstein client list. Detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Inaresto ng Taiwanese Coast Guard ang mga Chinese crew ng isang cargo ship dahil umano sa pagputol ng mga undersea internet cables ng independent island nation. Ayon sa investigasyon ng Taiwanese National Ministry of Defense, ang nasabing barko umano ay siyang nasa likod ng pagkakaputol ng kable na nagkukonekta sa Taiwan at Penghu na nagresulta sa pagkawala ng komunikasyon sa pagitan ng dalawang teritoryo. Sinabi ng Taiwan Coast Guard na ang cargo vessel na may tatak na flag of convenience ay may lulan na 8 Chinese na mga tripulante. Ang Hong Thai cargo vessel ay nakarehistro sa West African nation ng Togo. Ang kada paglayag naman nito ay pinupondahan naman ng mga Chinese firms. Lumabas sa investigasyon ng Taiwan Coast Guard na ilang oras matapos ang maangkla, ang barko ay nawala ng internet connections ang naturang mga rehiyon. Sa ngayon ay patuloy na iniimbestigahan ng Taiwan ang crew ng nasabing barko. Mariin namang itinanggi ng China ang nasabing paratang kung saan sinabi nilang kathang-isip lamang ng Taiwan ang naturang insidente dahil sa daan-daang kaparehos na kaso ng danyo sa undersea cables ang naitatala kada taon.
全球每年约发生100余起的海底光缆损坏事件是常见的海上事故。民进党当局在基本事实、事故责任尚未理清的情况之下，刻意的渲染，企图政治操弄，不得人心。
iligal ang pagbili o pagbebenta ng human organs sa Myanmar. Subalit, dahil sa labis na kahirapan, ay ilang residente ng Myanmar ang napipilitang ibenta ang kanilang mga kidney kapalit po ng malaking halaga. Upang itago ang iligal na gawain na ito sa gobyerno ay pinepeke ng mga kidney donors ang kanilang medical records. Ayon sa isang donor, nakapagbayad pa siya ng mga utang at nakabili rin ng lupa. May ilan namang hindi na bago ang buhay pagkatapos ng iligal na gawain. May isang donor na naubos na lamang ang kanyang kinita sa pagbenta ng kanyang kidney at ngayon ay nakararanas na ng problema sa tiyan pagkatapos ng surgery. Patuloy na nagsasagawa ng operasyon ng mga pulis para masugpo ang illegal kidney sales sa Myanmar. Gayunman, may ilang grupo na nagsasabing hindi raw epektibo ang mga hakbang na ginagawa ng gobyerno.
Nagbabalang mga eksperto ukol sa isang bagong tuklas na bat coronavirus na natagpuan sa Wuhan Institute of Virology, ang lugar sa China na sinasabi ng ilan na pinagmulan daw ng COVID-19 virus. Pinangalanan ng mga siyentipiko sa Wuhan ang bagong bat coronavirus na HKU5-CoV-2 at ayon sa pananaliksik na inilathala sa Cell Journal, maaaring makapasok ang bug sa mga cells gamit ang human ACE2, isang receptor ng COVID-19 na dumidikit muna sa cell bago mag-replicate na siyang sanhi ng sakit. Nangangahulugan nila ito na ang HKU5-CoV-2 ay maaaring manggaling muna sa mga paniki papunta sa mga tao na isang halimbawa ng zoonotic spillover. Tutol ang China sa desisyon ng Japan na payagan ng mga individual na galing sa Taiwan na ilista ang Taiwan na place of origin sa halip na China. Paliwanag ng China, isa itong pagtatangka na maging dalawa ang China o maging one China, one Taiwan. Isa itong paglabag sa One China Principle. Ipinaalala ni Zhu Fenglian, spokesperson for the Taiwan Affairs Office of the State Council, na ang Taiwan ay bahagi ng China at dapat nalalaman ng Japan ang kasaysayan.
世界上只有一个中国，台湾是中国的一部分。日方的有关举动妄图制造两个中国、一中一台，严重违背一个中国原则，严重干涉中国内政，我们对此坚决反对。日本作为在台湾问题上负有历史罪责的国家，应当汲取历史教训，谨言慎行，恪守一个中国原则和中日4个政治文件精神，慎重处理涉台问题。正告民进党当局误判形势，意外谋独，注定失败。
Naniniwala si North Korean leader Kim Jong-un na kailangan magkaroon ng isang malakas at modernong army ang Pyongyang upang kayanin ang anumang digmaan. Ininspeksyon ni Kim ang Kangkon Military Academy at pumunta rin ito sa Kim Il-sung University of Politics upang manawagan para sa katapatan at sakripisyo ng militar. Ayon sa intelligence agency ng South Korea, ang mga pagbisita ni Kim sa mga unit na militar at pagsasanay ay bahagi ng paghahanda para sa karagdagang pagpapadala ng North Korea ng mga sundalo nito sa Russia.
Ipinahiwatig ni French President Emmanuel Macron na posibleng mapagkasundoan ang ceasefire sa pagitan ng Ukraine at Russia sa mga susunod na linggo.
We want peace. And I think the initiative of President Trump is a very positive one. Be careful, because we need something substantial for Ukraine, but for the security of Europe and France. And second, let's work together on the future to preserve security guarantees, meaning to be sure that this peace will be respected by Russia. First, to have a truce. I think it could be done in the weeks to come.
Ito ay kasunod ng pakikipag-usap ni Macron kay US President Donald Trump sa White House at pagtutol ng Amerika sa resolusyon na kumukondena sa invasion ng Russia sa Ukraine na nagresulta naman sa giyera na nasa 3 taon na. Sa pakikipag-usap ng French President kay Trump, binigyang diin ito na hindi dapat isuko ang teritoryo ng Ukraine sa anumang peace deal sa Russia at dapat masuportahan ng Ukraine sa pamamagitan ng security guarantees. Nakipag-usap na rin anya siya sa 30 iba pang European leaders at mga kaalyado at marami umano sa kanilang handang maging bahagi ng security guarantees para sa Ukraine. Nakikipag-ugnay na rin siya, anya, kay British Prime Minister Keir Starmer kaugnay sa panukala na pagpapadala ng mga tropa sa rehiyon. Sa panig naman ni Trump, nais niyang magkaroon na ng ceasefire sa pagitan ng Ukraine at Russia sa lalong madaling panahon at iginiit ng magiging gastos at pasanin sa pagsusulong ng kapayapaan ay dapat na bayaran ng mga bansa sa Europa at hindi lamang ng Amerika.
During this period of time, we negotiate on security guarantees, land and territories, and it will be the responsibility of the Ukrainian president. Reconstruction. The US will have the deal on critical minerals and rare earths and so on. So we have to negotiate with the US, with the allies, with Ukraine, which type of security guarantee makes sense. It could be first, increase the capacities of Ukraine to maintain a strong army. We worked very hard together with the UK Prime Minister to have a French-UK proposal to say we are ready to send troops, not to go to the front line, not to go in confrontation, but to be, in some locations, being defined by the treaty, as a presence to maintain this peace and our collective credibility with the US backup and a US backstop.
Nagkasundo na ang Estados Unidos at Ukraine sa mga tuntunin ng kanilang draft mineral deal. Yan ay ayon sa dalawang sources na nakipag-usap sa Reuters. Ayon sa sources, handa na makipagkita si US President Donald Trump kay Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sa darating na Biyernes upang selyuhan na ang kanilang kasunduan. Binanggit din daw ni Trump na kailangan magpadala ng peacekeeping troops sa Ukraine kapag natuloy na ang critical mineral deal.
Inanunsyo ni British Prime Minister Keir Starmer ang pagtataas ng defense spending ng United Kingdom ng 2.5% sa taong 2027, habang magbabawas naman ang ito ng pondo para sa overseas development projects. Nanawagan din si Prime Minister Starmer sa mga kaalyado nito sa Europa na gumawa ng higit pa upang depensahan ang kani-kanilang gobyerno at grupo sa harap ng generational challenges.
So starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so that we reach that level in 2027. And we will maintain that for the rest of this Parliament. And let me spell that out, Mr. Speaker. That means spending £13.4 billion more on defence every year from 2027.
Noong Martes, nakipagpulong ang State Secretary ng US sa Saudi Defense Minister sa Washington, D.C. Paksa po ng pag-uusap ng dalawa ay ang defense ties nito at ilang global issues. Rikki para sa detalye.
Nagkita sina Secretary of State Marco Rubio at Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman sa department sa Washington, D.C. noong Martes. Ang pulong na ito ay matapos bumisita ni Prince Khalid sa Pentagon noong Lunes. Batay sa expose ng kinatawan ng Saudi, tinalakay nito at ni Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ang pagpapatatag ng kooperasyong pangdepensa, gayon din ang ilang pag-unlad panrehiyon at pang-internasyonal. Ang pagbisita ay kasunod ng pag-host ng Saudi Arabia sa high-level US at Russian officials ukol sa gyera sa Ukraine. Gayon din ang pagbabalik ng mas malawak na ugnayang Russia at US. Rikki para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
2 beses nang pumanig ang Estados Unidos sa Russia sa botohan nito sa UNGA na isinagawa para sa pangatlong anibersaryo ng pagsakop ng Russia sa Ukraine.
This resolution puts us on the path to peace. It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community. I thank you.
Ang naging botohan ay naganap sa United Nations General Assembly para sa paggunita ng pangatlong taon ng digmaan sa gitna ng Russia at Ukraine. Ang posisyon ng Estados Unidos ay naging senyales ng posisyon ni Trump sa gitna ng kaguluhan. Unang tinutulan ni U.S. Acting Envoy to the UN Dorothy Camille Shea ang isang resolusyong naglalayon na kondenahin ng United Nations ang ginawa ng Moscow at suportahan ang pagtatanggol sa Ukraine sa kanilang teritoryo. Ang kasabay lang nito sa pagtututol ay ang alyansa ng Russia, North Korea at Belarus, kahit ang China mismo ay piniling mag-abstain sa botohan dahil sa relasyon nito sa ibang bansa sa UN. Hindi rin ito natuloy dahil tinutulan naman ito ng UK at ng France kung saan sinabi nila na tila binabago ng Estados Unidos ang tunay na pangyayari sa kasaysayan gamit ang kanilang impluensya. Matapos ito ay nilabas naman ng Estados Unidos ang kanilang panibagong inamyendahang resolusyon sa seguridad na nanawagan para sa pagtatapos ng digmaan sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa, ngunit tinanggal nito ang bahagi kung saan kinukondena ng organisasyon ang Russia sa mga pangyayari.
The United States, as President Trump has made clear, is committed to ending this war, and he has been clear that we must reach a lasting peace. Mr. President, we are under no illusions. We recognize it will be challenging to get an agreement, but the time for Russia and Ukraine to make difficult choices and end the fighting is now.
Matapos ang halos 6 na oras ng diskusyon ay naipasa ang resolusyon ng Estados Unidos na may inamyendahang termino ukol sa pananakop ng Russia kung saan napilitang magsalita si Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs Rosemary DiCarlo dahil sa kanyang panlulumo sa botohang naganap. Tinutulan naman ito ng Ukraine, UK at France kung saan sinabi nila na tila binabago ng Estados Unidos ang kasaysayan gamit ang kanilang impluensya.
La France n'a pas voté en faveur du projet de résolution présenté par les États-Unis. En effet, si elle est pleinement engagée pour la paix en Ukraine, elle appelle à une paix globale, juste et durable, et certainement pas à la capitulation de l'agressé.
Russian forces have used rape, torture and execution as weapons of war and put nuclear safety at risk. This is a war that Putin said would take 3 days. 3 years on, Ukrainians have paid a terrible price. And the terms of the peace must send a message that aggression does not pay. This is why there can be no equivalence between Russia and Ukraine in how this Council refers to this war. If we are to find a path to sustainable peace, the Council must be clear on the war's origins.
Kinumpirma ng White House sa dadalo si U.S. Presidential Advisor Elon Musk sa kauna-unahang opisyal na cabinet meeting ni Pangulong Donald Trump. Ito po ay sa gitna ng kontrobersyal at pagtutol na marami ukol sa tila napakalaking impluensya ng bilyonaryo sa mga desisyon ng administrasyon. May Fanway Zaragoza para sa detalye.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt na a-attend si U.S. Presidential Advisor and Department of Government Efficiency o DOGE Chief Elon Musk sa unang official cabinet meeting ni Pangulong Donald Trump sa Miyerkules.
Elon Musk going to attend the president's first cabinet meeting tomorrow?
He is, as a matter of fact. I spoke to the president about that before coming down here as well. And Elon, considering he is working alongside the president and our cabinet secretaries, this entire administration will be in attendance tomorrow just to talk about DOGE's efforts and how all of the cabinet secretaries are identifying waste, fraud, and abuse at their respective agencies. We look forward to the meeting tomorrow, and I think you'll be hearing from the president and his cabinet where they're on campus tomorrow.
Dagdag ni Leavitt, kasama sa pag-uusapan ng kabinete ang mga aksyon ng DOGE at kung paanong tinutukoy ng mga kalihim ang pag-aaksaya, pandaraya at abuso sa kani-kanilang mga ahensya. Ang kontrobersyal na downsizing ni Musk ay kinasibak ng higit sa 20,000 mga empleyado. Gayun din ang pag-aalok ng administrasyon ng buyout sa 75,000 mga empleyado. May from Zaragoza para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nahaharap ngayon sa kaliwat kanang panawagan mula sa mga mambabata si U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi na ilabas ang client list ng namayapa ng convicted sex offender na si Jeffrey Epstein.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
Sa isang panaya, may sinabi ni Bondi na isinumite sa kanyang opisina ang ilang dokumento na may kaugnayan sa nasabing high-profile case laban sa former billionaire turned sex trafficker. Pinangunahan ni Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn ang naturang panawagan na sinuportahan naman ng mga politiko mula sa parehas na Republican at Democratic parties ang namimilit kay FBI Director Kash Patel na ilabas din ang lahat ng ebidensyang nakalap ng kanyang ahensya ukol sa naturang high-profile case. Sinasabi kasi ng publiko na magiging malaki itong revelasyon ukol sa mga pribadong gawain ng mga pinakamakapangyarihang tao sa buong mundo at pinaniniwala ang dapat questionin ang moralidad ng sino mang nasangkot sa kasong ito. Pinaghihinala ang pinauupo ni Bondi ang naturang dokumento sa kanyang opisina dahil sa posibleng pagkakasangkot ni President Trump dito. Nilalaman ng listahang ito ang ilang mga sikat na personalidad, malalaking politiko, business personalities at mga celebrities. Noong nakaraang taon ay sinabi ni US President Donald Trump na bukas ito sa paglalabas ng naturang dokumento dahil may posibilidad na.
Susunod, isa na namang near-miss airplane incident ang naitala sa Estados Unidos.
Aeronautics company Blue Origin na kumpleto na ang kanilang 10th manned space flight.
At Luka Doncic nagtala ng triple-double sa kanyang revenge game. Mga detalye po ng mga balita nga. At iba pa mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Matatag ang paninindigan. Matapang sa pagresponde. Matapat sa paglilingkod. Patikang tagapagbalita. Mata natin sa balitaan. Alex Santos kasama gabi-gabi sa Mata ng Agila Primetime.
Ang mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan, ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa Net 25! 100%!
Sa Net 25, let's net together. Sa Net 25.
At nagbabalik ang Mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. Napilitang kanselahin ng isang Southwest Airlines flight ang kanilang landing sa Chicago Midway International Airport matapos sumalubong ang isang private jet sa daraan ng runway ng aircraft. Kinumpirma ng airport authorities na ligtas na nakalapag ang Southwest Flight 2504 sa airport matapos ang kanilang go-around maneuver. Sa kabila nito, tinukoy ng isa tagapagsalita ng Chicago Airport na hindi maituturing na near collision ito. Iniulat naman ng Federal Aviation Administration na pumasok ng walang pahintulot ang private jet sa runway. Anila, iniimbestigahan na nila ang insidente kasama ang National Transportation Safety Board.
Samantala, natigil naman ang lahat ng mining operations sa Chile matapos tamaan ng bansa ng malawakang power outage. Sinabi ni Chilean Interior Minister Carolina Toja na isang cyber attack ang dahilan kaya nagkaroon ng transmission line failure sa power grid sa hilagang bahagi ng Chile. Iniimbestigahan na ng mga electricity transmission companies kung ano pa ang posibleng dahilan ng pagkawala ng kuryente sa syudad ng Santiago. Samantala, isinailalim ni Chilean President Gabriel Boric sa state of emergency ang estado at nagpatupad ito ng curfew mula alas 10 ng gabi hanggang alas 6 ng umaga para sa kaligtasan ng publiko. Sa ngayon, nasa 4 na milyong mga tahanan na ang may kuryente matapos ang power outage.
Tumila po ng 2 riders na motorsiklo matapos salpukin ng itim na SUV sa kahabaan ng Pune Highway sa India. Huli po sa dashcam ng isang motorista ang aktwal na pangyayari sa insidente. Mapapansing dumausdos ang itim na SUV bago ito tumirik sa gitna ng daan. Nagtamo naman ng ilang galos sa katawan ng 2 biktima at kaagad silang naisugod sa pinakamalapit na pagamutan para sa medikal na atensyon. Wala namang napaulat na tumulong ang pulisya sa daan para asikasuhin ang mga biktima. Inanunsyo naman ng South Korea na maaari na magsumite ng online arrival cards ang mga foreign visitors. Layunin ng bagong hakbang na pabilisin ang proseso sa immigration at dagdagan ang kaginhawaan para sa mga dayuhang bibisita. Bukod po dito, dapat din mag-fill out ng mga arrival cards ang mga dayuhan pagdating nila sa mga paliparan ng South Korea na siya namang mano-manong ini-scan ng mga immigration officers. Ito ay kasunod ng desisyon ng Ministry of Justice ng SOCOR na ipatupad ang electronic arrival cards upang mapabilis ang proseso sa mga immigration desk at mabawasan ang pagkaantala ng mga biyahero. Successful touchdown. Ito po ang muling naabot ng Blue Origin sa pang-10 crewed flight ng kanilang New Shepard spacecraft. Ayon sa Blue Origin, ang crew ay binubuo ng 6 na katao na lumipad sa himpapawid patungo sa kalawakan. Kabilang sa mga ito sina Labe Bless, Elaine Chia Hyde, Jesus Calleja, Dr. Richard Scott, Tushar Shah at isang undisclosed 6-member ng crew. Binisita ng 6 na crew members ang altitude na halos 345,000 feet or 65 miles para maranasan ang zero gravity zone. Sa kabila nito ay naging mabilis ang space flight kung saan tumagal lamang ito ng 10 minuto mula lift-off hanggang sa touchdown sa West Texas.
Naitala ni Luka Doncic ang kanyang unang triple-double bilang parte ng LA Lakers laban sa kanyang dating team na Dallas Mavericks. Muling gumawa ng all-around performance ang NBA Phenom na nagbuhos ng 19 points, 12 assists at 15 rebounds para maipanalo ang kanilang home game na 107-99. Inalalayan naman ito ng offensive performances ng 2 all-star na kasama ni Doncic na sina Austin Reeves at LeBron James. Sinamantala ng Lakers ang hindi paglalaro ng star forward ng Dallas na si Anthony Davis at sinubukan namang buhati ni Kyrie Irving ang kanyang koponan sa 35 points nito. Umabot lamang sa 16 points ang pinakamataas na lead ng LA. Binuhay naman ng LA fans ang buong arena sa pag-cheer nito ng thank you Nico sa alang-alang na Mavericks General Manager Nico Harrison na trinade ang kanilang star player na si Luka Doncic para kay Anthony Davis.
Nakatuon naman po ngayon si Pinoy figure skating star Michael Martinez sa pagtuturo ng mga susunod na henerasyon ng figure skaters. Sinabi nito na kasama niya sina American Olympic figure skaters at US Figure Skating Hall of Fame recipients na sina Maya at Alex Shibutani na nagtuturo ng mga interesado sa nasabing sport. Masaya ito dahil sa pamamahagi ng kanyang mga nalalaman at pagtuturo sa ilang mga interesadong atleta. Naniniwala ito na kaya ng Pilipinas na mamayagpag sa mga winter sports. At muling sumabak si Martinez sa 2018 sa Winter Olympics na ginanap sa Pyeongchang, South Korea.
Susunod, firefighting operations sa China, high-tech na rin.
Isang estudyante kakaiba ang ginawa para lamang makapag-exam.
At abangan ang iba pang mga storya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng Mata ng Agila World News. At magpapatuloy pa rin po ang balitaan dito sa Mata ng Agila International.
Be your own health advocate by turning into your own expert. We are your coach. Without any fiction and with lots of facts. Be active in a clever way. In good shape.
Nagprotesta sa kabisera ng Estados Unidos ang ilang mga grupo laban sa proposed tax at spending cuts sa federal workforce ng bansa. Kasama rito ang mga hindi sumang-ayon sa pagbabawas pondo sa healthcare at research doon. Sa Washington, D.C., si Jeff Sanidad para sa report.
Noong Martes, patuloy ang protesta ng mga laban sa malaking mga pagbabago na ginagawa ngayon sa gobyerno ng Estados Unidos. Kasama rito ang pagkaltas sa mga pondo at pagbabawas ng mga empleyado sa federal workforce. Gayun din ang pagbuwag sa malalaking sangay ng gobyerno. Nagtipon ang House Democrats na pinangunahan ni House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sa mga hakbang ng US Capitol bago ang isang key vote ukol sa budget framework na unang hakbang sa pagpapatupad ng tax cut at border agenda ni Pangulong Donald Trump. Ayon kay Jeffries, hindi iboboto ng kanyang partido ang mapanghas na Republican budget na ito na kasama ang pinakamalaking Medicaid cut sa kasaysayan ng bansa.
House Democrats will not provide a single vote to this reckless Republican budget. Not one. Not one.
Ang 4.5 trillion tax cut plan ni Trump ang siya ring popondo sa pagpapadeport ng mga migranteng nakatira ng ilegal sa bansa, paghigpit ng border, energy deregulation at military spending. Ani Jeffries, lahat ng mahalaga sa bansa ay inaatake ngayon.
This is a critical moment in the American journey. Everything we care about is under assault. The economy is under assault. The safety net is under assault. Our very way of life as a country is under assault. Democracy itself is under assault.
Samantala, sa labas naman ng tanggapan ng Department of Health and Human Services, hawak ng mga demonstrador ang mga posters na nagsasaad ng pagtutol nila sa mungkahing pagkakaltas ng federal grant funding laan sa mga universidad, medical centers at iba pang research institutions. Para sa kanila, ang pag-aalaga sa kalusugan ay karapatan ng lahat, hindi lamang ng mga may pambayad magpagamot.
Healthcare should be a right for everyone. For everyone. Not a privilege for the wealthy few. We should be focused on strengthening programs like Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act instead of trying to undermine them for bad, irresponsible tax plans.
Hinaing pa ng mga demonstrador, ang pondo ay mula sa mga mamamayan at dapat gamitin para sa mga mamamayan.
From outbreaks of viruses and forest fires, these are the people who put themselves at risk to protect the rest of us. And that's who Trump and Musk and a bunch of kids without any real-world knowledge and experience are trying to get rid of. Trump and Musk, whose genius is in putting their name on work and breakthroughs of other people and charging rent for it. Well, hands off. This money is the public's and we demand that it be used for the public good.
Pahayag naman ng mga mananaliksik, walang bumoto para bawasan ng pondo ukol sa pagtukoy ng kaalaman.
Nobody voted to halt cancer research. Nobody voted to cut life-saving treatments to heart disease. Diabetes affects millions of Americans. Is that a left-wing agenda? I don't think so.
At panawagan ng maraming nakakaramdam ng bigat ng pamumuhay araw-araw, magkaisa ang lahat upang labanan ang nangyayari ngayon sa bansa.
In all the different things that Donald Trump has cut, the one thing that hasn't gotten cut is the cost of eggs. Or the cost of housing. Or the cost of health care. So, there's a saying in labor about people. We need to be united. We need to have each other's back. We need to fight on behalf of every American. That is what everyone here is doing.
Jeff Sanidad para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Isang report mula sa Georgia Department of Education ng Estados Unidos ang nagpapakitang tumataas ngayon ang interes ng Black households sa homeschooling. Sa katunayan, ang demograpikong ito ang nangunguna ngayon sa edukasyon sa tahanan. Philip Toledo po para sa detalye ng balitang yan.
The National Home Education Research Institute says that since 2020, the number of Black students choosing to homeschool has surged from 3% to 20%. Meanwhile, Georgia's Department of Education reports that Black families are now the fastest growing demographic in homeschooling, and that approximately 3.7 million students across the country opt for that educational path. Teacher, homeschooler, and executive director of the Epic Homeschool Network, Andrea Hall, says her decision to homeschool was influenced by concerns about public schools failing to understand cultural differences.
What happens, and I don't think it's, people trying to be malicious intentionally, but they don't understand. They don't understand some of the cultural differences. They don't want to try to understand. Sometimes our kids get labeled, and they just get labeled as a bad kid, period, and no one really takes the time to learn that child or help that child.
In January, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to promote parental choice in school selection. It directs the Department of Education to issue guidance on how states can use federal education funds to support choice initiatives. The direction, however, did not provide further details. But Hall supports that initiative. She, however, has concerns about the second order signed at the same time to end federal funding for curricula that the president calls the indoctrination of students in anti-American ideologies on race and gender.
I was actually just reading the statement that was released by the Department of Education the other day about the DEI and divisive curriculum and anti-racism and how they're reducing funding for that. And part of me was like, okay, it's only divisive if you're a racist, and then you might need the information so that you won't be so racist. So, that kind of threw me for a loop. But then on the other hand, our administration said that they're going to support homeschoolers and they're going to throw more money at homeschoolers so that families can choose to homeschool. So while we see that happening on the public school side, on the federal side, we also see that they're going to give more money for you to school your way.
Philip Toledo for Mathay ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Naging maganda ang gabi para sa mga aktor ng historical epic TV series na Shogun at ng Hulu original series na Only Murders in the Building matapos na kanilang masungkit ang prestihiyosang Best Ensemble Award. Ang Shogun na patungkol sa buhay ng mga Hapon sa Imperial Japan ay pinarangalan bilang Best Ensemble in a Drama TV Series. Ayon kay Hiroyuki Sanada, ang aktor na gumanap bilang Lord Yoshi Torinaga, isang malaking hamon sa FX Studios na ipalabas ang Shogun ng 70% Japanese na may subtitles. Anya, ang pagkapanalo ng Shogun ay isang pahiwatig na ang acting ay isang universal language. Higit sa Best Ensemble ay naipanalo rin ang Shogun ng Best Male-Female Actor in a Drama Series dahil sa pag-arte ni Ana Sawai at ni Sanada. Samantala, kinagulat naman ang team ng Only Murders in the Building ang kanilang pagkapanalo sa Best Ensemble Awards in a Comedy TV Series. Dahil sa sobrang gulat ni Selena Gomez, ay nasabi na lamang niya ang katagang, "We never win. This is so weird." Kasama ni Gomez na tumungtong sa entablado para tanggapin ang award ang apat niyang co-stars na sina Michael, Cyril Creighton, Molly Shannon, Kumail Nanjiani at Richard Kind. Anila, hindi nila inaasahan na kanilang naangatan ng ibang mga series katulad ng The Bear at ng Hacks. Ang Only Murders in the Building ay isang American mystery comedy drama kung saan umiikot ang storya sa tatlong magkakaibigan na nagkakilala sa isang true crime podcast. Sa ibang balita, high-tech na rin ang Qingdao Fire and Rescue Brigade sa China matapos madagdag sa team nila ang 2 robotic dogs. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, ang 70-kilogram na robot dogs na ito ay malaking tulong na sa kanilang operasyon, partikular sa loob ng mga gusaling nabalot ng makapal na usok mula sa pagkakasunog. Anila, kaya nilang mag-operate ng 3 oras sa gitna ng mainit na temperatura at mga lugar na puno ng nakalalaso na usok. Equipped din ang mga robot dogs ng rapid laser scanning system para mag-transmit ng high-definition live footage ng real-time. Itinuturing na asset ng Qingdao Fire Rescue Brigade ang mga robotic dogs dahil nababawasan nila ang panganib ng mga firefighters sa mga operasyon.
At para iwasan ang traffic, isang estudyante sa India ang nagparaglide para lamang umabot sa kanyang exams. Si Samarth Mahangane ay isang first-year commerce student. Nasa bundok po siya sa Pachingani dahil nagtitinda siya ng juice nang tawagan siya ng kanyang mga kaibigan at tanungin bakit daw wala siya sa kanilang examination room. At doon na nagulat si Samarth at doon na lamang niya nalaman na narisked pala ang kanilang pagsusulit. At dahil 15 kilometers away ang exam center sa Panchgani ay 15 to 20 minutes bago siya nakarating dito at traffic pa. Nakiusap si Samarth kay Govind Vewale, isang sports expert para tulungan siya mag-paraglide. Kaagad naman tumugon si Vewale at tinuruan si Samarth na mag-paraglide at sa loob ng 5 minutes ay nakarating na si Samarth sa kanyang exam center. Namangha ang lahat sa kanyang grand entrance. Narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi po. Ako po muli si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Nina Rikki, Alagao, Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta po tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. The United States and Ukraine have agreed on the terms of a draft minerals deal.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to. And he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal.
And the news starts now. The United States and Ukraine have agreed on the terms of a draft minerals deal. The agreement is central to Kiev's push to win Washington's support as President Donald Trump seeks to rapidly end the war with Russia. A source familiar with the contents of the draft agreement says that it does not specify any U.S. security guarantees or continued flow of weapons. But the deal says that the United States wants Ukraine to be free, sovereign, and secure. Mathay likeness for more.
One of the sources familiar with the deal says future weapons shipments are still being discussed between the U.S. and Ukraine. Trump told reporters that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wants to come to Washington to sign what Trump is calling a very big deal.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to. And he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal.
So, just how big a deal is it?
It's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things.
Trump isn't saying what those other things might be.
Trump wants rare earths because the American economy is highly dependent on Chinese sources, and it's an economic and national security risk. So, reason number one. Reason number two is that there are now so many American companies who are able to mine and produce rare earths within the US. Reason number two. And reason number three is that, I mean, there is Ukraine, and we have these commodities right there. And in order to avoid that the Chinese will take over Ukrainian rare earths commodities and build up potential mines there, it's an option for the Americans. And reason number four is to make the Ukrainians pay for the American military support.
Mines like these that you see here hold the elements that Trump is after. And this deal could open up Ukraine's vast mineral wealth to the U.S. But a political scientist warns that this won't be a get-rich-quick opportunity for the United States. Dr. Jacob Kulik says not a lot is known about the mineral deposits in Ukraine. And he says there's another issue.
A huge problem for the U.S. is that there are not so many American companies who are able to mine and to process these rare earth elements, because since almost 2 decades, Chinese companies dominate this sector. So it's easy to say on a political level, let's get these critical elements from Ukraine. But on a practical level, it's not so far clear which companies, Americans, British or German or whatever companies, will be able to do this right now when the war continues.
And something else Trump should consider before counting those anticipated dollars is the geopolitical situation. Geographer Julie Michelle Klinger says the location of those mineral deposits in Ukraine could hinder American access.
The elements that are under question with respect to Ukraine are currently located in areas that are Russia controlled, right? And so gaining or regaining access to those deposits, not only for the U.S., for Ukraine and Western allies, is something that has larger geopolitical significance.
But that doesn't seem to concern Trump. He says he's willing to do a deal with Moscow as well.
I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too, if we can. The rare earth, they have very good rare earth also. They both do. I would say that, and oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing if we sell this. It's great for Russia, too, because we can do deals there. They have very valuable land that isn't utilized. So something like that could take place.
There's still the issue of security in Ukraine. Some European countries have said they would be willing to provide peacekeeping forces. Trump said on Monday that Moscow would accept such peacekeepers, but the Kremlin denied that a day later.
The United States to try to extract $500 billion in mineral resources from Ukraine after giving Ukraine about $60 billion in aid is an absolute absurdity. Not only is it obviously completely lopsided, but we need to keep in mind that Ukraine has been defending the United States and our West European allies and our European allies more generally from Russian aggression ever since Russia invaded Ukraine for the second time in 2022. The Ukrainians have been doing the fighting and dying. All we've done is provide some aid, which is a pittance compared to what we've gotten from them, which is defending Europe against Russian aggression.
There's no commitment yet from the U.S. as to whether it will deploy troops in Ukraine. For the rest of the week, Trump's receiving room at the White House is going to be busy. Today, he hosts British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and tomorrow, it's Zelensky who will come calling to sign the minerals deal. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
Now, what does Vladimir Putin really want in Ukraine? What would a peace deal look like on his terms? Russian President Vladimir Putin has been vocal about his vision for peace in Ukraine, emphasizing direct negotiations with the United States. In a recent statement, he addressed Europe's role, suggesting that while their involvement is welcome, they had previously withdrawn from discussions.
Their participation in the negotiation process is in demand, of course. We never refused. We had constant discussions with them. At some point, under all sorts of far-fetched ideas to defeat Russia on the battlefield, they themselves refused to have contacts with us. If they want to come back, they are welcome.
Putin's recent media engagement, including yesterday's interview, signals he expects positive outcomes. He's ready to talk with Trump and senses an opportunity for a deal that favors Moscow, one delivered on Putin's terms. So what exactly is he aiming for? His statements, along with those from Kremlin officials, provide some insights. On Europe, Putin blames them for cutting diplomatic contact and now refuses to make concessions.
I don't see anything wrong here, Europe's participation in the negotiations on Ukraine. Well, probably no one here can demand anything, especially from Russia. Let them demand it from someone else.
Putin's message to European leaders, claiming any peace deal must address their security concerns, is dismissive. Meanwhile, Europe's alliance with America is in flux. Trump's pivot has raised questions about NATO's future, and Russia will try to exploit this divide. On security guarantees, a key demand from Zelensky, who wants Western troops protecting Ukraine, Trump has claimed Putin is open to European troops in Ukraine.
Will you convince Vladimir Putin to accept the European troops as peacekeeper, would you think?
Yeah, he will accept that.
He will accept
I've
it?
asked him that question.
You talked to me?
I've asked him that question.
He said yes?
going to lift the block on the
Because he's not, look, if we do this deal, he's not looking for war, he doesn't mind, but I've specifically asked him that question. He has no problem with it.
Is France going to lift?
But Russian officials tell a different story.
Мы объяснили нашим сегодняшним коллегам, что
We explained to our colleagues today what President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly stressed, that the expansion of NATO, the absorption of Ukraine by the North Atlantic Alliance, is a direct threat to the interests of the Russian Federation, a direct threat to our sovereignty. We explained today that the appearance of armed forces from the same NATO countries, but under a false flag, under the flag of the European Union or under national flags, does not change anything in this regard. Of course, this is unacceptable to us.
Russia doesn't want NATO in its backyard. It's one of the primary reasons Putin went to war in Ukraine. In fact, he wants NATO to withdraw from Eastern Europe, a demand Moscow made during talks with America and Saudi Arabia as a precaution to normalizing relations. Looking at the bigger picture, Russia has three broad demands: no Western troops in Ukraine, no concessions to Europe, no NATO in Eastern Europe. All point to one goal. Putin wants Ukraine isolated and firmly outside the Western orbit. Russia currently controls around 20% of the Ukrainian territory and is unlikely to give it up, ensuring long-term leverage over Kiev even after any peace deal. The Russian president believes he can achieve this through direct negotiations with the U.S. And unlike Trump, Putin appears to be in no rush.
The first step should be devoted to increasing the level of trust between the two countries. That's exactly what we were doing in Riyadh. This is what the next, maybe other high-level contacts will be dedicated to. Without this, it is impossible to resolve any issue, including an issue as complex and acute as the Ukrainian crisis.
Trump clearly wants a swift deal on Ukraine, a quick foreign policy win. But Moscow is playing hardball, proving once again to be masters of strategic patience, with Vladimir Putin dictating both the terms and pace of these peace talks.
You know, the notion that somehow Putin's going to take what he's got and then go home and take his toys and go home and be fine is absolute nonsense. What Putin's going to do is take what he can get now, then he's going to go home and he's going to rearm. He's going to try to, seek whatever economic recovery he can do, and he will begin in short order to start the pressure on Ukraine again in anticipation of another invasion. This is going to happen. Putin says it's going to happen. He's been saying this is going to happen for a long time. And if we don't take him seriously and take him at his word, we're making a huge mistake.
In a significant shift, the United States has altered its stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now, on Monday, marking the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the UN General Assembly voted on a resolution condemning Russian aggression and demanding the withdrawal of troops from Ukraine. Here's more. The UN resolution explicitly condemned Russian aggression and demanded withdrawal of troops from Ukraine. While 93 countries backed this resolution, 18 opposed it, including the United States, finding itself alongside Russia, North Korea, Belarus, and Mali. It's important to note that abstention was an option. The U.S. made a deliberate decision to reject the resolution rather than abstain, signaling what many see as clear support for Russia's position.
A simple, historic statement from the General Assembly that looks forward, not backwards. A resolution focused on one simple idea: ending the war. A path to peace is possible.
Now, prior to the vote, Washington lobbied Western allies to reject the resolution in favor of their own alternative, a weaker draft that notably omitted any mention of Russian aggression. Now, this American draft focused on vague peace terms, but Europe and Ukraine refused to support it.
Today, Ukraine fights not only for its own independence, but for a world of nations that are not divided into predators and prey, where no zones of conflict, of influence, and gray zones exist. We're fighting for a world which cannot be divided by another Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. We stand up for the world where the future of a nation cannot be determined by another Yalta Conference.
While the General Assembly passed the original resolution, the U.S. found success in the Security Council. For the first time since 2022, the Security Council adopted America's alternative resolution with 10 members supporting it. 5 nations abstained, all U.S. allies: Britain, France, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia.
It is a first step, but a crucial one of which we should all be proud. Now we must use it to build a peaceful future for Ukraine, Russia, and the international community.
Russia welcomed this diplomatic shift. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated,
We see that the United States is taking a much more balanced position, which really helps the efforts aimed at resolving the conflict in Ukraine. We certainly welcome this. We believe that such a balanced position speaks of a real desire to contribute to a settlement. As for the Europeans, of course, the statements made from Brussels and so on, including from Kiev yesterday, they do not yet signal a balance. But perhaps, based on the results of contacts between Europeans and Americans, Europe will somehow gravitate towards a greater balance.
Two significant trends are emerging here. First, the U.S. is not distancing itself from Ukraine, but actively embracing a position closer to Russia's. Second, overall global support for Kiev appears to be declining. Looking at comparable UN resolutions, in March 2022, 141 countries supported Ukraine with only 5 opposing and 35 abstaining. Now, yesterday's numbers show a marked decline, 93 supporting, 18 opposing, and 65 abstaining. While the majority still opposes Russia's actions, support for Ukraine has clearly diminished. This could be attributed to war fatigue, the Trump administration's influence, or growing sentiment that the conflict needs resolution regardless of terms. President Vladimir Putin is eager to advance peace talks but wants to keep them exclusive. Putin appears to prefer direct negotiations with President Trump while excluding European voices that might take a harder line.
Потому что для того, чтобы решать сложные и даже острые вопросы, в том числе на украинском треке, и Россия, и Соединенные Штаты должны сделать первый шаг. В чем он заключается? Этот первый шаг должен быть посвящен повышению уровня доверия между обоими государствами. Вот именно этим мы и занимались в Ар-Рияде. Именно этому будут посвящены ближайшие, может быть, другие контакты на высоком уровне. Без этого невозможно решить ни один вопрос, в том числе и вопрос такой сложный, острый, как украинский кризис. Но при чем здесь европейцы? Это касается двухсторонних российско-американских отношений. Они нам здесь зачем? Чем они здесь будут заниматься? А на этих...
And President Trump seems receptive to this approach.
But I think it's very much to the benefit of this tremendous distrust on both sides. That's why it's good that I'm coming in now. But I think it's to the very much benefit of Russia to make a deal and to go on with leading Russia in a very positive way. That's what you have to do. But I really believe that he wants to make a deal. Maybe wrong, but I believe he wants to make a deal.
Meanwhile, Europe continues to show solidarity with Ukraine through demonstrations in Warsaw, Berlin, Paris, and elsewhere. The EU also held a moment of silence, even as their diplomatic influence in resolving the conflict appears increasingly marginalized. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called for building a strong, modern army to cope with any war during a visit to a military academy. Kim's Tuesday trip to the Hanggang military academy comes after North Korea has sent thousands of troops to Russia to support its war against Ukraine. Now this week, Kim also visited the Kim Il-sung University of Politics, another elite cadre training institution calling for military loyalty and sacrifice. South Korea's intelligence agency has said Kim's previous inspections of military units and training might be part of preparations for an additional dispatch of soldiers to Russia. Now, in this video footage aired by the North State Television KRT, Kim inspected facilities and training sessions for students at the Hanggang Military Academy. Now, Kim laid out tasks to refurbish the facilities and intensify education, focusing on practice so that the students would learn about the actual experiences of modern warfare and master the rapidly advanced weapons. A large power outage struck vast swaths of Chile on Tuesday, interrupting mining operations in the world's biggest copper producer. The blackout left residents of Santiago without electricity. Jay Suarez has more.
This is what it looks like in Santiago, the capital. These escalators ground to a halt. The lights went out. Stores and restaurants could not do business without electricity. Street lights didn't work, and sirens from emergency vehicles blared across the city. The Santiago Metro, which transports millions of passengers, shut down and people had to rely on buses instead. Passengers had to be evacuated from stalled trains. The head of Chile's National Electricity Coordinator, Ernesto Huber, couldn't say when electrical service would be completely restored, but he says the power has started to come back on in parts of northern and southern Chile. Chile's Interior Minister, Carolina Toja, says a transmission line failure in the country's north caused the outage. Authorities have ruled out a cyber attack. The outage affected areas from the mining-intensive north to the central and southern regions that are home to most of the population, including capital Santiago. Mines use backup generators to keep their operations going.
At this time, of the 8 million households that were without electricity, about half have been gradually regaining power, but in an unstable way. Of course, we will continue monitoring the situation so that the power companies restore services for each of the households in Chile as soon as possible, because we know that this situation is still unstable. As a government, we have the duty to be very much on top of this.
Jay Suarez for Net 25 World News.
The Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives late on Tuesday advanced President Trump's tax cut and border security agenda, delivering a major boost to his 2025 priorities. Ryan Chang has more.
217, the nays are 215.
President Donald Trump's tax cut plan cleared a major hurdle Tuesday as it narrowly passed the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. The budget resolution called for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts and $2 trillion in spending cuts spread out over 10 years. That would help Trump pay for his 2025 priorities: deporting illegal migrants in the U.S., securing the border, deregulating energy, and other items. Speaker Mike Johnson spoke after the bill's passage.
We have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we are going to deliver the America First agenda. We're going to deliver all of it, not just parts of it, and this was the first step in that process.
Tuesday's vote sends the budget resolution to the Senate, also controlled by the GOP. But before the final House vote to advance it, Republican leaders had to spend hours corralling holdouts to back the move. Some hardliners felt the cuts didn't go far enough, while other lawmakers were concerned about their impact on social programs. Johnson had to maneuver and cancel the budget vote when it lacked votes to pass, then reversed course. Republican leaders said Trump had to personally intervene and tell reluctant members about the need to advance his tax cut plan. Last week, doubts about House Republican unity had prompted Senate Republicans to enact their own $340 billion budget resolution as a Plan B. However, both chambers must pass the same budget resolution to unlock a parliamentary tool called reconciliation, where they won't need support from Democrats. Republicans will need that later this year to circumvent opposition and the Senate filibuster to enact legislation containing the Trump agenda. Earlier on Tuesday, protesters rallied outside the Department of Health and Human Services against proposals in Trump's tax plan to cut federal grant funding for universities, medical centers, and other research institutions. Speaking on the steps of Congress, House Dems said they wouldn't support the bill, which Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said included the largest Medicaid cut in American history. No Democrats supported the measure.
U.S. President Donald Trump will end the United States Immigrant Investor Visa Program, known as the EB-5 program. That is according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on Tuesday.
Exactly. So the EB-5 program was really, you lend some money, but it was full of nonsense, make-believe, and fraud, and it was a way to get a green card that was low priced. So the president said, rather than having this sort of ridiculous EB-5 program, we're going to end the EB-5 program. We're going to replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which is really a green card gold. So they'll be able to pay $5 million to the U.S. government. They'll have to go through vetting, of course. We're going to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens. They can come to America. The president can give them a green card, and they can invest in America, and we can use that money to reduce our deficit. Why do we give out lotteries of green cards? Why do we give out EB-5 for green cards? The President of the United States understands that the right answer is, why don't we eliminate the deficit of the United States of America?
Now, in a bid to attract immigrants with money, U.S. President Donald Trump is proposing a new kind of entry visa. Trump's so-called gold card will be sold to prospects that can't create jobs. Arlene Ocampo has more.
Only the wealthy need apply. President Donald Trump's gold card comes with a path to citizenship and a $5 million price tag. He says it will replace the existing program for overseas investors.
It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. Never been done before, anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say, 2 weeks, Howard?
Trump is also targeting major corporations who can buy the cards for foreign students at top American universities that they want to hire. And the president figures there will be a big demand for his gold cards.
And we'll be able to sell maybe 1 million of these cards, maybe more than that. And if you add up the numbers, they're pretty good. As an example, 1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion.
And what about Russian oligarchs? Would they be eligible to buy a card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford $5 million.
Trump figures the cards will go on sale in about 2 weeks. Arlene Ocampo for Net 25 World News.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Be your own health advocate by turning into your own expert. We are your coach. Without any fiction and with lots of facts. Be active in a clever way. In good shape.
A sad story from Paris. Police say a newborn baby is dead after being thrown out of a window of a hotel in Paris. A young American woman believed to be the mother of the child has been taken into custody. Estela Dominique has more.
The tragedy happened Monday at this hotel on the outskirts of Paris. The prosecutor's office says the 18-year-old mother of the child had been in Paris with a group of young adults traveling in Europe. Local media reports say the baby had been thrown from a second-floor window of the hotel. Paramedics rushed the badly injured infant to hospital, where doctors pronounced the child dead. Before her arrest, the mother had been taken to hospital for emergency treatment following childbirth.
I have sleep, but in 7 o'clock, 2 firemen go in my hotel number and knock at my door and say, I must check your number. Yes, and he's check my number and go in on the number.
Authorities are investigating the crime as a homicide on a minor under the age of 15. Denial of pregnancy is being considered as a possible motive. The U.S. Embassy in Paris is monitoring the case. Estela Dominique for Net 25 World News.
Thieves in Colorado faked a medical emergency when they held up a pet store. Their target wasn't money, but a couple of puppies worth more than $8,000. Julian Bukayan has that story.
The whole doggone caper has been captured on surveillance video. A trio of thieves went into the store in the small community of Centennial, about 25 kilometers from Denver. One of the culprits faked a seizure. That distracted store employees long enough for another robber to grab a couple of bulldog puppies from a cage. Two of the three suspects managed to get away. Police responding to the scene arrested the man who faked the seizure. The purloined pooches had a value of more than $8,000. One of the puppies has been returned to the store by a woman who bought it from a street vendor for $1,500. That's well below the pet store price of more than $4,300. The whereabouts of the second pup is not known. Julian Bukayan for Net 25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.